Okay. I've been a rabbi for 23 years, hard to believe. And during this time, I've had the honor to teach nearly 300 men, women, and their children about Judaism and to guide them through the conversion process to become Jews by choice. Several years ago on the there was a US television program, maybe you've seen it if you were viewing in Europe, called Sex and the City. And one of the characters, a woman called Charlotte, was about to be married to a Jewish man, Harry Goldblatt. Charlotte decided to convert to Judaism, and that's when we see Charlotte asking a rabbi to help her make conversion. Charlotte asked the rabbi 3 times and was rejected 2 times before the rabbi agreed to assist her. The story made for very interesting television, but the rabbi's rejection represents a minhag, or a custom regarding conversions that for the most part no longer exists today. Instead, anyone who has an authentic attraction to the Jewish religion and who is serious about Jewish study and living a Jewish life can make conversion and join the Jewish people. In fact, when we look back several hundred years, we find that historically our rabbis taught that synagogues should maintain a positive and welcoming policy toward conversion. For example, at the turn of the last century, it was Rabbi Ben-Zion Uziel, the first Sephardic chief rabbi of Israel, who emphasized that a number of rabbinic texts teach us that God loves converts. In fact, the rabbi reminded Jews that the Talmud teaches that God dispersed the Jews throughout the world so that non-Jews would have the opportunity to become acquainted with them and choose conversion. Nearly 60 years ago, in 1965, the subject of conversion came up again, and this time with the chief rabbi of Haifa, Rabbi Joseph Mesas. He taught that it should be general policy to accept all people who want to convert. And recently, another chief rabbi, David Halevi, turned to ancient Jewish history to strengthen his point when he emphasized that in the centuries just before and after the beginning of the Common Era, Judaism was very encouraging toward converts. In fact, thousands of Romans who were seeking a spiritual life were openly welcomed to the Judaism of ancient times. What about today? If someone wants to become Jewish, will they be taken seriously? And after they've made conversion, will they be welcomed into the Jewish community? Well, there are a number of branches or streams of Judaism, including Reform, Reconstructionist, Renewal, Masorti and Conservative, Orthodox and New Orthodox, and each branch of Judaism sets its own standards for conversion. The modern denominations, Reform, Renewal, and Reconstructionist, which happens to be our synagogue here in Calabria, generally accepts each other's conversions, while the conservative movement often requires a conservative conversion, although this could be changing and it depends on the individual rabbi. While in traditional or Orthodox Judaism, it is usually required that the conversions are made under the auspices under the auspices of the Orthodox rabbis, and they typically only accept conversions that are supervised as well by the Orthodox rabbis. And what all of this means is that depending on where you live and which stream of Judaism dominates, conversion to Judaism can be complicated. And that's why I've invited a group of my former students who have given me permission to identify them as converts or Jews by choice, and who have agreed to tell their stories. The conversion event, the actual coming to a Beit Din, answering some questions and having an immersion, a religious immersion, the conversion events represents not an ending, but a beginning, the next step on one's personal Jewish journey. And that's why I've invited, as I said, our Jews by choice here with me, who will talk about synagogue acceptance, discovery of Jewish roots, living Jewishly in an interfaith partnership, isolation, and much more, because each one has a story to tell and a personal perspective on the joys and challenges of becoming a Jew by choice. And I'll introduce our group to you first, and maybe you each of, as I say your name, you can wave to our guests. Patrick is with us. Janina is with us. Melissa is with us. Anna, Renaud, and Helene. And we are going to start with Patrick.
Hello from Germany, from Berlin. My name is Patrick. I converted with Rabbi Barbara in 2016, and since, I think it was 2016, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, since then, I attended a few of her workshops and supported a little bit. And today I'm here for talking about synagogue acceptance. First of all, please excuse my rusty English. Not very well developed. So I will try my best that you understand me. So yeah, synagogue acceptance. Actually, I thought it's probably, it would have been also a good idea to put me on the end of the line, because when you come into the conversion process, often synagogue acceptance is something which happens after you converted, especially if you assume that within this program, in general, people are not accepted in synagogues in a way before conversion, mainly after. However, to speed up the process, and if it's possible, it would be a very, very good idea to make connections before you convert. Doesn't matter where you convert, just make connections. Stop by, go into the synagogue, try to make, you don't make friends. What you do is you make acquaintances, you start conversations, you take probably part in the prayer services. And yeah, that's what I did for 3 years before I converted with Rabbi Barbara. My synagogue, my other synagogue, I have two. My synagogue is it's a Reform one here in Berlin. It's a friendly one. It's welcoming. Consider if you take into consideration how other synagogues can be. It's people are were curious, and yeah, it gave me the chance to take part in the prayer services. And this is, when you do that regularly, and people get used to you and see that you are really interested in things like that, then it's something which is it grows natural, which I find in my personal situation, I found that very, very, very good and very important. It was not always easy. There were some, situations where it's like life. It's always a life like that. You don't enter into a room and everything is always funny. There are ups and downs. I took, for example, I attended the shiur there for over 1 year. Very interesting. I personally like more the style in the program we are choosing. We are all chose the Punk Torah program. And then, but it's important to be a part of it. If asked, do some services, do some things, and don't try to be more Jewish than the Jews sitting in the room. This is something which can be very embarrassing, and for both sides. So the best advice I could give, from my own experience, is just be natural. Don't try to be somebody else, and don't try to be the best pupil in the room. So this was what me guided through the whole process. I personally like more the approach which we have with Rabbi Barbara. It's more an international approach, more reform. I don't want to go into all these things about the branches, because there are also differences in different countries, how branches are seen and how strict things can be with them. And so Rabbi Barbara and the whole program was very fine for me. Yeah, and then after 3 years, I made conversion. Before I was accepted as a kind of supporting member. A lot of synagogues have that. Basically, being supporting member means being there, if possible, from time to time, show that you are really interested in the synagogue, which could also mean that you put some money in, that you not vast amounts, but just there's coffee needed. Okay, you spend some money on coffee. Whatever.
Patrick, you became treasurer of your synagogue, didn't you?
Yeah, but that's after conversion.
That's after.
You don't become treasurer before conversion. I mean, maybe if you're exceptionally good, maybe yes, but not in the regular case. So okay, after conversion, then I converted, and after conversion, just keep on. I mean, once you are converted, what does it make to you, and what does it mean for your attendance and for your drive to attend all the time? But because once you've made it, you can say maybe I don't have to go so often anymore and things like that. So anyway, if you stick by the line, it's very people are welcoming you. I mean, at least in my synagogue. And it was a good path to go on. Yeah, and after a while, when you engage with the synagogue community, then situations may arise where they ask you, would you be able to support us by doing some jobs, like treasurer in my case. Yeah, so I did it for 1 year. Actually, it's not joying. It's not very funny to be a treasurer in a synagogue. It's can be hard work and a lot of duties. But it's an interesting. It was an interesting time in my life to see. I liked it very much, but after 1 year, out of certain reasons like jobs and things like that and family, I decided to quit that. However, synagogue is, after all, still a very important part for me, and being integrated is not a one-way line. It's a back and forward line. So still, I'm very much integrated in that synagogue, and I like what they're doing, the services. Yeah, unfortunately, the last 2 years have been a bit difficult, as we all know. Service in person was difficult. We had online services. Although I like very much online services, it's not the same. It's not the same, vibes. Mm-hmm. And but I'm sure it's coming back.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you so very much. And if you just joined us, our presenters are talking about various topics dealing with their joys and challenges of becoming a Jew by choice. If you have a particular question for a particular presenter, you can put that in the message, and we will take questions at the end. And now we bring Yanina to you about leading a Jewish life where Jews are in the minority, and work and family experiences as well. Yanina.
Hello, so my name is Yanina, and I'll start with this because that's interesting. So Yanina, I have two parents. They're both not Jewish, and I also, while some of the people that make conversion through Rabbi Barbara are Anusim, so they have some Jewish ancestry in the past, I have no known Jewish ancestry that I know of, so I just purely because I felt an attraction to Judaism and made this choice, and there's no family connection. And my two Gentile parents, they named me Yanina after a movie. It's in German. I don't know the English title in German. It's Ein Stück Himmel, a piece of heaven, and it's about a Polish Jewish person who has various experiences and later settled in Australia, I believe. And her name was Janina David, and I'm named after this person. So I don't know, maybe that gave me the spark. I mean, there is this Ashkenazi belief that if you name someone after a person, especially a person who has died, then a little tiny twinsy part of that person's soul might go into that person. So maybe that's what happened. I don't know. And I met Rabbi Barbara because here in Ireland the Jewish community is very tiny, and there is only 2 synagogues, one Orthodox, which was not an option for me because I'm also married to a non-Jewish man, and so on. And the other one is the liberal synagogue, but they don't have the resources to support converts. At that time, they didn't have a conversion program. So I found Rabbi Barbara and I studied with her, and I made conversion in July 2019. So like before COVID. And since then, I've been living as in an Irish seaside village, very nice. As probably the only Jew in the village. I sometimes use the ocean as a mikvah because that's all I have here. But in the winter, that is not always possible. It is very cold. The Irish Sea is like the coldest thing ever. And I usually celebrate most of my Jewish life, therefore just takes place either online or just at home with my family. And even though my husband and my son, they are not Jewish, they participate in holidays. My favorite holidays are Pesach and Purim and also Hanukkah. And I always do something, and we sometimes invite Kevin's friends, even though they are not Jewish, but they asked, yeah, can we come? And I said, of course you can watch and you can enjoy. And we did various activities. I always have to improvise because kosher products are not easy to come by. So if I want sweets for example, Purim, instead of ordering kosher, I just get vegan jellies and just improvise in that way. But it's always very nice. And generally, my experiences also in an interfaith partnership have been good. My husband has been super supportive. I mean, he's the one who drives for like 40 miles to the only kosher shop on this island to buy me stuff because I have no car. And if we have holidays, we celebrate both. And usually it has never happened that since that they're both on the same day. So we then do Pesach first and then Easter after, or we do Hanukkah and then Christmas, or the other way around. This year will be interesting because Purim will fall on the same day as not a Christian holiday, but an Irish holiday, which is St. Patrick's, which is Catholic in a way, but it's more the Irish national holiday, so it's less religious than it's just Ireland Day. And so we will have to integrate both in a way, and I have some ideas. Both cultures, I mean, Purim is about drinking a lot of alcohol, as is St. Patrick's Day, so and we have one commonality already there, so maybe we can figure something out. And so that's that. As with friends and work, again, Jews are tiny twinsy minority here, but I have never had, or almost never had, negative experiences. I go by the line, I don't advertise to everyone that I'm Jewish, but I'm not hiding it either. Meaning, if, for example, I'm asked, I know someone for a while, and they ask me, what did you do this weekend? And it happened to be a Jewish holiday on this weekend, or I happen to have done something at the synagogue, I will say, yo, actually, I attended synagogue, or I did this and that. And so people will know. And usually people are curious, but in a very normal way and in a very natural way to just, oh, so what do you do? What is this holiday about? What do you eat? Sometimes they ask me about things they saw in TV, and I have to explain I'm not Orthodox, I'm not doing that, things like that. But it's never in a weird way, whereas in Germany, I had sometimes an experience, if they find out you're Jewish, they are curious, but in a way that they kind of treat you as something really exotic. And I have to say, I've never had this here. They're just, yo, cool. My aunt married a Muslim. You are Jewish, and my other cousin, he used to be Catholic, but he's now Pastafari, and everyone does different things, and that's like, and I think it's because the Irish have experienced their own religion in a negative way, some of them, because it was too much intermingled with the Irish state. And even though Catholicism can be a beautiful religion, it became oppressive because it was mixed with the state. So many Irish people now have a very laissez-faire and very open approach. And don't want to be strict anymore, and they're really welcoming to everyone. So I've never had this experience. The only negative experience, if I might say, I've had is with my very staunchly Orthodox friends, not Orthodox, sorry, Orthodox Marxist friends who are atheist, and sometimes they're nice and they give me the name Rosa Luxemburg, even though I'm anything but that's okay. But sometimes they can be very negative, usually in relation to Israel. So I kind of had to manage that, but that was actually the only thing that ever happened. And other than that, I've also been attending a local synagogue here, which are part of liberal Judaism. And I'm not a full member yet, but I have, like Patrick mentioned, like one of these friendship memberships. And actually COVID has helped in a way, because the synagogue is an hour and a half away. And because it's now online, I can attend more often. So I don't know how far I'm going to take this journey, if I'm going to apply for full membership, but that's where I am.
Thank you, Janina. Thank you so much. From Germany and Ireland, let's go back to Germany. And if you do have a question for one of our presenters, you can, Rosanna, do you want to mention that again? What they need to do?
Sure. I'm gonna spotlight here. Great. Yes. If you do have a question, you're welcome to message me directly. So you'd be looking for my name and that little blue bar along the bottom of the chat, where it says everyone. You would select instead, you'd click it and select instead me, Rosie Forrest, and then you can type your question directly to me. If you want to direct it to one person individually, just put their name first. So it might be Janina, and then the question that would follow. And then when we get to questions, I'll be sure to read them out.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you so much. We're going back to Germany as we meet Melissa.
Okay.
Melissa's going to talk to us about family life and about doing Jewish with spouse and partner, with her husband and her little children. Take it away, Melissa.
Thank you. And thank you to Patrick and Janina so far. You guys have been so interesting to hear everybody's experiences so far. And I know Janina quite well from 2019 is when I also converted with Rabbi Barbara, and Janina and I were on the same trip. And Patrick was there as well, although he had converted prior and he was leading some of our workshops on that trip. So it's really great to hear you guys talk about your experiences. So thank you. For me, I probably would not have converted to Judaism. I probably would have only ever been a Philo-Semite, which is, if you're wondering, it's kind of the opposite of an anti-Semite, somebody who loves Jews, loves Judaism, but had it not been for meeting my husband, who is Jewish by birth, I don't know I would have ever approached the idea of converting to Judaism, because I didn't have the same outlook as Janina has. She has a non-Jewish husband and therefore a non-Jewish child, and still went forward in conversion. I'm not sure that I ever would have considered that. So I guess I kind of have to say I admire Janina that she was so committed to it, to even that her family, her spouse and her child aren't necessarily Jewish, that she still went for it. But maybe that was just what was meant to be in my path. So my husband is Jewish by birth. He helped introduce me to some of the rituals and the festivals. The first thing I ever attended was a Pesach Seder, and I'm dipping my finger in the salt water and then the wine, and I had no idea what was going on, but the people were nice. I found it very interesting. And the more I talked to him about it, about his faith and why he was Jewish and what he found valuable in it, I also found value in it. And unfortunately, when my husband and I met, we were living in the Czech Republic in Prague. And then in 2012, we moved here to Germany, and we live in Nuremberg, which is kind of in the southeast quadrant of Germany. It's former political West Germany, but it's in the southeast geographically, quite close to Munich. And we don't have a lot of choice in the kinds of congregations that we have around here. There is a Chabad, which, if you're familiar with Chabad, they are sort of ultra-Orthodox. And there is a still Orthodox, but more, let's say, modern Orthodox synagogue in Nuremberg. And there's also one in a nearby town called Fürth, which is also Orthodox, but still more modern Orthodox. And the first step for us was that we wanted to get married, which we did. I expressed my interest in converting to my husband, which he was happy about, although he'd never asked me to. And then we moved to Germany shortly after getting married, and I was already pregnant with our first child. So we had to search for a moel for Dylan's Brit Milah, because we knew at some point during my pregnancy that we were going to have a boy. And so it was very important for us to do the circumcision. Well, we ended up getting in contact with the congregation in Fürth, the town that's nearby. Like I said, they're modern Orthodox, but still strict about walking to the shul on Shabbat, no driving, no turning on lights and keeping kosher and all of that, those kinds of things. But at the very least, we were able to have Dylan circumcised when he was about 2 weeks old, and we were very happy with that. And we then kind of made them our congregation, and I was working with that rabbi to convert. But at some point, he dropped the bomb of, well, you know, you're going to have to move here so that you can walk to shul. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. So that's what led me to finally find Rabbi Barbara, and I'm so glad that I did, because being in the Reconstructionist or the more liberal types of Judaism fits our family structure better and fits our idea of how our family experiences Judaism in an area where, although there are some Jews here and there are congregations that we can take advantage of, and we do, we're still very much the token Jews, as kind of Yanina was saying, where, you know, people say, oh, you're Jewish. Oh, so what's that about? And we get a lot of those questions too. So how we do it basically is that since my husband is Jewish, he then is usually accepted into the congregation as a full member, and we just kind of tag along. Dylan is now 8 years old, Bina is 6. And I have to say that one thing I'm very proud of is that they have a very strong Jewish identity. We do not, because I have fully converted and I was in the process of, or considering doing that and intending to do that before our first child was even born, we have cut out all of the Christian holidays that I personally used to celebrate when I was a child. And even my husband did to a certain extent, because his mother's Jewish, but his father's not. So we don't do Christmas, we don't do Easter, we don't do what's right now is actually, we're coming up on the Catholic period of Lent, and just before that is Mardi Gras or Fat Tuesday, which is this coming Tuesday, and so everybody dresses up, and it's kind of like Purim. So we don't actually do that here, but our kids go to regular schools. So they got to dress up on Friday in their classrooms. I said, sure, wear your costumes, it's fine, it's fun. So that our children learn tolerance. And in exchange, I often offer to bring our faith into my children's classrooms. And one of the best ways to do that is with books. So this is something that my kids really like. This is bedtime stories of Jewish values. They're just very short stories, like 1 or 2 pages. This one is about faith. And then there's one about visiting the sick. So we read to the kids from these, and we also share books like this with our children's teachers and their other educators, friends as well. We also, since my husband is a member of a synagogue here in Germany, an official member, there's a company or a charity called PJ Library that's originated in the US, and they send books for free every month to every Jewish child who signs up for the program. We now have that in Germany, and we're now getting, you can see there, PJ Library, woo! So every month our kids get a new book. This one is The Fox Goes Alone, and it's actually a Noah's Ark story. And then there's also things like this. This is a sing-along Siddur.
Oh, nice.
So it's like a little prayer book for the kids to learn their first prayers. This one is a Yadayim, so about washing their hands. And it comes a little CD so that they can sing along. The CD's back here. And other than that, we try to do everything that we can to participate in whatever the synagogues that my husband is a member of have to offer for the kids, whether it's a Hanukkah party, a Purim party, Shabbaton we go to occasionally when we can. And now we got the chance to actually found our own community, which we did with some of the other people that have converted through Rabbi Barbara. And we now have about 12 members. And also, again, thanks to the Rabbi, we have our own Torah scroll, which is lovely. And we're starting to do some online events and do things to, share with each other within our small liberal community that we are growing ways to be Jewish, even though we are sort of like our own little diaspora, because, Patrick is even one of our founding members. He's in Berlin, I'm in Nuremberg. Janina's in Italy, not Italy, in Ireland. She's also, I believe, Janina, you were one of our founding members as well, and you're involved in some way with our community. So we are our own little diaspora, but we do our best to keep ourselves together and make sure that the kids understand and appreciate their Judaism, despite usually being the only Jewish kids within their group of friends and also within their schools. So that's how we do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much. I had a very nice conversation just last week with a woman who does development for the PJ Library, and they were asking me about would there be interest in books in Italian for children. And of course I said, yes. That's wonderful. So thank you, Melissa. Anna is in Bulgaria, and she's going to speak to us about isolation, what it's like to be Jewish when there is no synagogue or Jewish community support. Anna, you are our hero. For sticking to it.
Well, I don't know about a hero, but I thank you I'm loving listening to everyone's story, and it's really very faith building to me to hear it, because I'm not in a congregation and I'm not around people that share the same belief system that I have. But I was thinking, I converted in 2017, and I was at the age of 58. And so you can do the math about how old I am. I don't care. And at the time I was living in Switzerland, so hello to Switzerland there. And I was working full time and on the weekends. And I couldn't wait to retire, because I wanted to, observe Shabbat, and I wanted to get involved in a community, because I thought, well, it's because I'm working full time, it's difficult. But first thing I want to say, though, is that I think of Judaism less, my personal expression of Judaism, if you will, is less a religion as it is a relationship. So I think that's why I can walk this walk alone, because although it's really wonderful and comforting and inspiring and faith building to have companions on the path, you really only need one, and I always seem to be able to know that one is with me. So that's what keeps me going. But it has been difficult, and it has been disappointing, because the few times I have reached out, I've either got ghosted, nobody writes back, nobody calls back. I've asked Rabbi Barbara to make contact, they never contacted her back. And then a few times when I've asked friends that were in synagogues, they questioned my conversion, and so and then I kind of pulled back a little bit. So I wouldn't say that that's necessarily good, but that's just been my experience. But the blessing has really been my husband, and like Janina, my husband has been so supportive, like incredibly supportive. He celebrates all the holidays with me. He's the only one who does. I mean, I only have one other person that I celebrate the holidays with, and it's my husband. And when I light candles on Friday, he says Shabbat Shalom, and that's been really terrific. And he's really come around, and I'm sure Rabbi Barbara will probably be happily surprised to hear that, because at first he was not happy about it. So he's really come around, and that's been a blessing. So it's this relationship we have with the Creator that is the most important thing. And the rituals that we do and that have been passed along for generations are really important. They bind us to Him, I think, and to one another. I think community is important, and I'm still praying that one day I will have one. But in Bulgaria, it's difficult for me because I live in a small village very far away from the nearest town. There is a Chabad there, and there's an Orthodox synagogue there, and I've been around, but can't make the connection somehow. And part, I will say that's somewhat my fault as well, because I got a little disappointed and I got a little timid, and because the emails were never answered. Yeah, so that's where I've landed. And then there was COVID. So, the COVID was fantastic because it opened me up. And I asked Rabbi Barbara if I could be sort of a member, long distance member with the synagogue there in Sarasota, and so I feel like my heart is there in Italy, and I go to Rabbi Barbara's celebrations online, and I also watch some others online, and so I feel connected during the holidays virtually. And again, it's not the same, I know, but it's something, and it's a blessing, and so I'm grateful for it. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It's a journey, and I came to it late in life, but I always had a feeling, that I was being called. And I was raised Catholic, but I had just had a feeling. And then it turns out that my grandparents were Jewish. So on my mother's side. So her father, let's say her grandparents, so they're my great grandparents, were Jewish. Or so we suspect, and so it was there somewhere. It was calling me home and calling me to be part of the tribe, and I did, and I'm so glad I did, and I love it. And who knows, what the future will bring. But for now, I walk the journey alone, or with the Creator. So
Thank you.
that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much. Thank you. And all of you, I believe, if you when you make conversion, we give you a membership certificate to Ner Tamid Del Sud, the Eternal Light of the South here, and everyone is welcome. And for most of you, you're very far away, but you are in our hearts, and you are certainly with us, and we are all part of Klal Israel. So nice for you to remind us of that. Thank you, Anna. If you have a questions for Yanina, Melissa, Patrick, or Anna, you can write it in the message box to Rosie Forrest, and we'll take the questions here shortly. And Rosanna, before we move on, I just wanted to ask if Sven is with us, because we had he might have joined late.
Unless it's under a different name. I don't.
SAN, maybe? No? Okay. I hope everything is okay there. So we're going to move on to Switzerland, and we're going to talk with Renaud, who has made conversion and now is becoming a bar mitzvah, and he'll tell you a little bit about his Jewish journey. Welcome, Renaud.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Renaud. I come from the French part of Switzerland, and I'm currently living in Lausanne. So it's a small town not far from Geneva. So where to start? So I met Rabbi Barbara 3 years ago now, and I made conversion in 2020 during COVID. It was a bit tough because we thought that we couldn't make it, but finally we could. So it was a really nice experience. I was really touched by Anna's speech, because I also experienced the same struggles here in Switzerland of being accepted in synagogues, in congregations. So because in Lausanne, there is only one Orthodox congregation, and it was difficult for me to commute to Geneva every week for Shabbat services. But I finally went to a synagogue in La Chaux-de-Fonds. It's a small city in the French part of Switzerland as well. And they really welcomed me, very warm. I'm really happy. I attended my first Shabbat service 2 weeks ago. So I'm really happy about this. So what I wanted to say about is that I am becoming a bar mitzvah this summer. I will go to Greece with Rabbi Barbara. I'm really excited about this, and I just wanted to share with you that to me, becoming a bar mitzvah is, if I can say, kind of the follow-up of the turning point of my life, which has been the conversion to Judaism. And what I really like to share is the inclusivity within a community, and I share the values as a whole. And so I decided to become a bar mitzvah because to me, how can I say that? Like, conversion was not the ending point of my Jewishness process. So it was a new chapter in my life, which opens the door, and it opens to me a whole new world of learning, joy, challenges, and also struggles, of course. Also in the identity part, and so becoming a bar mitzvah is also strengthen my ties to Judaism, actually. And yes, I really want to cultivate that part of the Judaism. And also one of the most important value for me is the constant learning. And this is also one of the core of what I really like to do, and in what I found myself in Judaism is to learn constantly, and not to rest, if I can say, for also self-criticism. And becoming a bar mitzvah was also that idea of continue to learn. To learn, actually, as it is a mitzvah, of course. And so I would say that my willingness of becoming a bar mitzvah had two sides. So the first one is clearly linked to that ideal of the constant learning, and is also a way of claiming for myself the Jewish culture closer than it is now. And it's also having some kind of a spiritual majority, which can emphasize and reinforce my ties to Judaism, as I just said, as my identity. But secondly, it's I have to admit that it's also a way, as I have mentioned it earlier, to make room for me within the Jewish community, because I, of course, struggled to make myself a place in the Jewish community back in Switzerland after I have converted in Italy. So by me becoming a bar mitzvah, I can also somehow show not only to the outside, but also to myself, how much I care about being Jewish, how much I care about leading a Jewish life. And with both its practical and philosophical sides, if I can say. So if I can sum up that idea of becoming a bar mitzvah, is, I would say, not only another point in my life, it will be as much important as the others, and as it follows in a natural way the path that I started with the conversion. So I am really looking forward.
Thank you, Reno. As Reno said, he's coming to Greece, and I am visiting Rabbi in Rhodes, Greece, every year. Well, it's been 2 years since I've been there because of COVID, but we're starting up again, and I'll be there from June 1st to June 18th, and we will have 5 B'nai Mitzvah. But one of those 5 will be Renaud, who is an adult bar mitzvah, and that's very, very exciting to me, and to all of us. It is conversion, as Renaud said, is the beginning step on the Jewish journey. It's a beginning of a process, not an ending. So we'll say an early Mazel Tov to you, Renaud. And I can tell he's going to do very well because he's been working on his verses, and we've been meeting and studying together as well. And speaking of studying, we're going to conclude our presentations with Helene, who is from Malta. And she is a current student preparing to make conversion, and she's going to talk a little bit about the learning process. Helene?
Hi, I'm Helen. I'm living currently in Malta. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. And thank you for the experiences shared before. It was very, very interesting, and it touched me a lot. And Rabbi Barbara Aiello offered me to speak about studying for conversion and how do I feel about making the conversion next July. Well, I identified like 5 steps in my actual conversion process. The first step is the choice. I think well, it's a very, very important choice. Of course, it asks me a long reflection. And for me, it's not an end, not a beginning, it's just a continuity in my life. Since I'm 18 years old, the persons most important in my life are Jewish. My husband, my best friend, and the man I consider like my dad. So for me, to choose the Jewish religion was obvious. It was, and I have participated to holidays, Shabbat for 20 years before, and I feel completely integrated in my husband's family, even if I'm not Jewish at the beginning, and without question, without pressure, I feel integrated like I am. So it's a very beautiful thing, I think. And so I think that's why, because I'm completely free to make this process, to make this decision, I think even easier for me to make the right choice. And the second step was when I discovered the liberal movement, because when I meet Pauline Beb, Rabbi Pauline Beb in France, in Paris, it was for me really the opening of a new possibility. I felt close to her value, to her way to live the Jewish life. So it changed completely the idea of conversion for me. It opened it, in fact. And after that, I moved on to Central America, and it was my third step, the integration inside the Jewish community. It was there in Central America. And we went very close to KC congregation. It is a liberal conservative congregation. I don't know if it's the right name, but but very dynamic. And the rabbi is Gustavo Kraselnik. And after 1 year attending the synagogue regularly, I discovered we had many friends. We feel integrated really, really easily. And accepted like we are, like in my husband's family. And so I decided to begin a conversion process there. And I followed the classes during 7 months, but COVID came and stopped everything. And so the synagogue was closed, and all the process of conversion was frozen. But it was a good thing, because there I discovered what was to be integrated in a Jewish congregation, and what was to go for Shabbat, for holidays in the synagogue. So for me, it was very important. And after that, thanks to COVID, I discovered what was to celebrate Shabbat at home, online. So it was interesting too, I think. And a few months later, we moved to Spain, and after that to Malta. And here we don't have congregation close. So I struggled to make Jewish friends for the moment here. But I'm very happy because it's my fourth step. I was hoping it could exist an online congregation and something for the entire world. And I discovered Darshan Yeshiva online. And well, I Googled it and I read a lot about Darshan Yeshiva before to contact them, because in order to be sure it was something good, something normal, I don't know. And I contacted them and all was very easy, fluid. And I felt directly in adequacy with the program. And the person I spoke for, Sarah. And it strengthens my feelings when I discovered that the rabbi closest to Malta and speaking English was Rabbi Barbara Aiello. And of course, I read her pathway history. I don't know how do we say in English exactly. And I was very impressed, really, by everything and by the fact that to be a rabbi and to be a woman show for me a real determination, a strength of character, and to be from USA and to live in Italia and well, a lot of things. So I thought it's my place to follow here. So I felt really confident. And so I signed up, and I'm very happy and proud to be part of this, of Darshan Yeshiva, and to be with Rabbi Barbara Aiello, because, well, I think it's amazing to have an international community like that and to be part of that. And even if I don't have community here in Malta close, and I don't have for the moment friends close here, and my Jewish friends here, but I feel connected. So, and I had a new challenge to face. Because we were used to celebrate Shabbat or with Daniel's family or at the synagogue, but we never did that alone at home. It was with COVID and with the fact to be alone in Malta, I have to organize everything by myself. So I asked my mother-in-law in order to have some equipment, some stuff for Shabbat. And now it is our new normality with the children. The children love that. Each week to have, it's like a special family moment. And even they say amen after the prayers, as they sing with me, sometimes for the Shalom Aleichem. And so I don't feel comfortable for the moment to invite people at home for Shabbat, because for me, I think I need more practice, or I don't know, not like that. And I really like the class of Darshan Yeshiva because it's easy. It's you have part of history, part of holidays, Jewish life. The way they present everything, it's easy to follow. Some text, some videos, some podcasts, and we have each month one-to-one Zoom with Rabbi Barbara Aiello, so it's easy to share some things or to have more tips or to know the prayers before each holidays. And what did it change for me? For me, it's more continuity, because I have known, because of the Daniel's family, I've been interested of Jewish history, books, TV show, movies since I know Jewish community, so since 20 years, 22 years. And so the five steps, for me, it's a conversion, but for me, it's not a end or a beginning, it's really a continuity in my life. I feel like that. But how do I feel about that? I feel impatient, I feel excited, but I feel anxious too, of course, because well, I hope I will be ready, because I know that it's a step, it's just a new step, like it's a 5-step for me, and it will be other step after that, but of course.
Thank you, Helene. Helen, thank you so much. And 20-year journey, we say to you, welcome home. Absolutely. So glad that you're a part of our group tonight. And Rosanna, I'm going to ask you, do we have any questions in the message?
We do.
Okay, we'll take some time for questions. And if you are sticking with us here for about 10-15 minutes more, we'd be really happy if you would do that. And Rosanna, are we addressing questions to individuals, or how shall we proceed?
It's a mix. So I'll start with just a general question, and this might actually be for you, but a visitor wondering for a definition perhaps, and maybe there are multiple, but a definition of Reconstructionist and then also liberalism. So how you see that or how it's defined?
Well, the Reconstructionist movement is the first of is the fourth largest Jewish movement in the world. It was founded in the United States by Rabbi Mordecai Kaplan, and the idea was to teach synagogues how to incorporate observance, tradition, and liberal ideas into a Jewish community. And so what we find in a Reconstructionist synagogue is many times the minhag, or the custom for worship, is not the same from one synagogue to another, mainly because the congregation participates greatly in how they create the service. I was a scholar in residence in Winnipeg, Canada, and I was at the invitation of a Reconstructionist synagogue. And when I was invited to speak on a Friday night, which I enjoyed doing, on Saturday morning, it was Yoga Shabbat. And I had never seen anything like that. And it was a mind-body experience that was part of the Saturday morning Shachrit service. And that gives you an idea of the range of opportunity that the Reconstructionist not only supports, but expects its congregations to do. Also, there is an emphasis on social justice, on diversity, and the Reconstructionist movement has been in the forefront of helping diverse Jews, Black Jews, Asian Jews, to become full members and part of the synagogues around the world. And we have with us also tonight Rabbi Guy Hall. Hello, Rabbi Hall. Would you like to talk about the liberal movement a little bit?
Yes. The liberal movement in the UK began at the turn of the 20th century and was led by a man called Montefiore, who was an academic and rather high class, so very Anglican, really. And I think liberalism was also was in favor politically, so that it was flavor of the times, and it meant, I think, being a bit conservative on economics and quite open-minded on social issues, it grew. The liberal movement grew out of a reform movement that had already been established about 50 years earlier in the UK, mainly a mixture of a split off from the Sephardi community in the UK, who had their main synagogue in East London, and the rather well-to-do element were living in West London and didn't want to schlep across town every Shabbos on foot. So they wanted to build their own community. The Chacham, the leader of the Sephardi community, said no, but they went ahead and built it anyway, and you can still go to it. It's very Moorish if you look inside. It's called the West London Synagogue, or more precisely, the West London Synagogue of British Jews. If you're not a British Jew, you're in trouble. So part of that membership thought that even Reformed Judaism was a bit too traditional, and they wanted something more radical. And that's how the liberal movement grew. It's kind of lost its way, I think, recently, partly because liberalism has almost become a dirty word. Conservatism is favor of the month, and partly because it hasn't had any sort of really dynamic or original ideas about having anything to say about Judaism. It keeps looking back on its early successes and tries to repeat them, but it hasn't moved on, which tends to happen with revolutionary and radical ideas. They have their moment in the sun and then they fade.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, I'll just add to what Rabbi Hall said, that when I was a student rabbi in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I was the intern, the rabbinic intern for Rabbi Larry Weiner, who said many important things, taught me many important things. But one thing I remember well is he said, labels are for the jelly jars and not the Jews. And that one needs to find a community where one feels comfortable, regardless of what the label might be. And that's one thing too about Reconstructionist Judaism. You really have to get to know the synagogue, as opposed to assuming that all of the Reconstructionist synagogues are alike. Rosanna, do we have another question?
Well, I saw Melissa's hand there for a second. So Melissa, if you had something, but then it went away.
Well, yeah, actually, just really quick, something that actually, Rabbi Barbara, you told me when we were studying for my conversion, that really honed it in for me, that I'm not really too fussed about the difference between liberal, Reconstructionist, Reform, and conservative, more what is Orthodox and what is not Orthodox. And what you said to me was the most important thing, and this is from a religious perspective, not the political perspective that Rabbi Hall was talking about, is that the Orthodox view all mitzvot as equal, and that the liberal or less Orthodox say that there is a certain hierarchy. So you told me once about a host who would cook something for you that wasn't necessarily as kosher as you had hoped it would be, but you ate it because you didn't want to embarrass her. And it was actually, as you said it to me, as you told me the story, it was actually more your fault, a miscommunication on your part. And that for you was the higher mitzvah, that her feelings were safe and secure, and not that you would be breaking your kosher laws or something like that. So that to me was really revealing in how I approach Judaism, that we do keep a certain type of kosher here, but we're not super strict, as Janina has also said. And it's not so much about what's the nitpicky differences between the different less Orthodox denominations. It's just, how do you approach your personal perspective? And like you said, finding the community that really fits with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember that conversation. Absolutely. It is a higher mitzvah to not embarrass someone in public. And so that was the choice I made. Thank you for remembering that. Rosanna, what do we have?
I also see Janina has had her hand up for a bit. So let's get a comment there. Then I'll go to another question from the list.
Okay.
Yeah, literally 30 seconds. Because I saw Anna when she always referred to the Creator, and that's one that I like about the liberal Judaism. Even though, I'm also more like Melissa. I more differentiate between Orthodox and the more liberal types, and I don't really care about the political history of liberal Judaism. In Ireland, it's a bit different anyway, even though they are part of liberal Judaism, UK officially, that the Siddur says, instead of our Father, our King, it translates to the Avinu Malkeinu, for example, to our Creator and Sovereign, which is gender neutral, because I think God also has a feminine part, and so that really appeals to me, for example.
Thank you, Nina.
Okay, so here's a question about for someone who hasn't yet made a decision to convert, but who is curious and wants to learn more. Should they visit their local Reform congregation without knowing anyone who attends? What would be the best way to make an approach? Probably wouldn't be joined by other members of their family, but just in general, what advice might you offer?
Who would like to take that? Is there someone here who would like to take that question? Anna, would you like to respond?
Hi, sorry, my hand was up for the last discussion, but if I could just quickly say that comment, which was in terms of mitzvot, you had one time told me that it's better to do something than do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that has really been sort of a motto, if that's the right word, that I've carried with me ever since my conversion, because I've always felt like I haven't been able to do enough. And whenever I feel like I'm not enough of a Jew, I'm a little bit of imposter syndrome or whatever, I remember your words, and they've been so comforting to me over the years. It's better to do something than nothing. So whether our Shabbat's perfect or whether our Pesach is perfect or whatever, if we can't make a good challah, whatever, I mean, do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the Creator, and I love that, Janina, Avinu Malkeinu, God is so much more. We put him in a box. And this is why I loved about Judaism anyway, that it was okay to question things, and that God was so much bigger. And the idea of male and female being together and, inclusive and all, I just think Judaism is beautiful and wonderful. And so if I'm the only Jew on a small little island all by myself, I would still be Jewish. And it turns out that's where I am. I'm sort of
I was going to say.
Anyway.
Thank you, Anna.
So what was the question that I'm supposed to answer?
The question was about how to approach a synagogue. Is that correct, Rosanna?
I'm not the person to ask, I think.
Yeah. Who would like to take that question?
Someone who hasn't made the decision to convert yet, and was wondering if approaching a local Reform congregation was a good first step, or if there were other suggestions.
I think Patrick could answer that, couldn't he?
I would actually, if you haven't made a decision, I would do anything what could help me to make a decision. So for sure, a visit to the local congregation, from my point of view, would be part of it, because how can okay, I will tell you how it worked with me, because I came, apart from my family history and everything, but I came across more out of incident. I came across the synagogue, and I was standing there, I was looking at it, and I, read something, blah, blah, blah. But then I saw it in action, and this was quite intriguing for me. It was like a trigger, and I said, look, I want to be part of that. And so I would say, yes, go, and if you have the opportunity. And, as I said earlier, you don't have to go in and expect something. It's not that people, don't expect people being somehow, very tentative to you and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to get in, just see, look, and get the feeling. And then probably it will help you to make a decision first about the conversation in itself. Secondly, what way? Because it was earlier said here also. It is you have to make sure that you fit in, but also from the other side, it should be that they should fit in with you. And that's one thing. It's easier to say. I must admit, it's easier to say than to do.
Yes, it is. Renal, how did you approach the synagogue that you are now very welcomed in?
I simply sent them an email explaining my situation. I presented myself. Like I said that my age, that I met you a few years ago, and that I made conversion in Italy. So I was really open. I was really open to it, and just a short message and asking if I could attend once to a Shabbat service, and they simply answered me that of course I can come, and that they are Orthodox obedience, but they welcome Jews from every different backgrounds. So yes.
Good. Taking that step is important. It's very, very, very important. Sometimes calling the synagogue and asking if someone would meet you there. Say, when I come, I would like to, was there someone I can sit with or someone to meet me there? Or if you know someone that goes to the synagogue, ask that friend, ask that person if you can accompany them. That's another good way to do it as well. Rosanna, what do we have? Thank you, Renewal.
So a question for Melissa. First, gratitude for sharing your experiences, but then also, are patrilineal Jews accepted in your community?
That's a great question. The best way that I can answer that is, in general, what you find across mainland Europe is the congregations that are here tend towards more orthodoxy. And if you know what that means, then you understand what my answer is going to be, which is, generally speaking, no. There are some congregations around here. There's one that's in a town called Bamberg, which is not far from here. It's about an hour, 10-minute drive, where in that community, as far as I understand, our children would be accepted as Jewish, but in my conversation with the actual rabbi, it wasn't quite so clear. So in the congregations that we have access to here, there is no such thing as patrilineal Jewish heritage, because they tend towards more orthodoxy, and because the one liberal congregation that we have access to was a bit vague. So unfortunately, no.
Also, in the Reconstructionist movement, the children of fathers who are Jewish but non-Jewish mothers are accepted fully as Jewish. However, there's only one Reconstructionist synagogue in Italy and only two in Europe, all of Europe. The other is in Delft in the Netherlands. So, Rabbi Hall, can you add something to that?
Yes, I was just in the course of typing what I wanted to share, which is to say that in Europe, if you visit a synagogue that's in a large city, they may well have security concerns. So it's certainly worth contacting them first before you arrive, and also taking a passport or something that clearly identifies you. There are often security guards on the door who will ask you why you want to come and what's the purpose of your visit, and if you know the name of the rabbi and things like this, which can be a bit off-putting for a first visit. I think if possible, I would both visit the same synagogue several times, because the first time you go, it's such a novelty, you don't quite know what to expect. I think if you become familiar with it, you kind of get more of a sense of whether it's for you. And if there are other synagogues you can visit locally, that's also worth doing, because then you have something to compare with and again, get a sense of where you feel most comfortable spiritually.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Hall. Rosanna, we have another question. We'll take two more.
So I see Patrick has his hand raised for this, and then we have one more question after that.
Okay, Patrick.
I just wanted to say something to the, I wrote it down, the idea of kind of perfect Shabbat, or being perfect in a way, the things you are doing when you try to live a Jewish life. I think it's very, for me, and I don't know how it is with you, but I think there is no perfect way. It's just a normal way, and we all have these pictures in mind and all these little things we would see in the internet and whatever, how a perfect Shabbat would be. But the reality is that if you visit 10 families, you will experience 10 different experiences. So I would say there's no use in trying or going after some perfect experience. It is just there are Jewish laws, there's halacha, there are things you have to do, but in reality you have to understand that you have also to take into account your surrounding and how it is and your local customs. there's a lot of things in Judaism can be local customs. So it is. I just wanted to say to get you away from this idea of something perfect.
That's true. That's true. And all of you who are my students, current students and former, do know that I say better to do something rather than nothing. And that's one of the reasons why we make our ebooks, where each person writes about a holiday and how they observed it and their emotional reactions to it. And it's a good example of all the different ways that people will celebrate Pesach or Purim or Tu B'Shvat. So thank you, Patrick. And Rosanna, you have one more question for us?
Yeah, so that was actually a beautiful segue. So the last question is for Renaud, but I think maybe if he would like to start with the answer and if others wanted to jump in. But the question is, what does it mean to you to lead a Jewish life?
Well, that's a big question. So to me, I wouldn't say that it's only something related to faith, but I would also say that it's related to what I do practically during my whole day. And by saying that, I don't say or pretend that I do everything Jewish. Each of my movement are not Jewish. I mean that in that way. But what I want to say is that, for example, I can wake up in the morning and pray and say some blessings, and it could also be keeping kosher for eating, and it could be maintaining Shabbat on Friday evening. I mainly emphasize this because to me it's really important to have the seizure between the week and the weekend, and I really appreciate to maintain this seizure between work time and weekend and rest. And that is also why during Shabbat I read a lot, and I try to get rid of computers a bit, just to sometimes for self-reflection. So yes, if I can sum that a bit up, because it was a bit messy how I explained it, but it is a really
No, not at all. Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
sure.
Thank you. The idea of separating the material world from the spiritual is so important, big part of Jewish life, and Shabbat is the most important of all the Jewish holidays, and it comes every week of the year, and that allows us to focus on our spiritual life in not just here and there or 2 or 3 holidays a year, but every Friday night. And I always often quote Rabbi Nachman of Breslau, who talked about how important it is to get outside on Shabbat, even if it's rainy or cold or snowy or whatever, to just get outside and to remove yourself from the material world. And removing ourselves electronically, as Renaud said, is a real challenge these days. Would anybody like to contribute to that? What it's like to lead a Jewish life?
Yeah, Melissa has her hand up.
Okay, Melissa.
Yeah, so just really quickly is one thing that I heard from several people, several of the presenters, is a feeling of continuity. And obviously having small children that we're raising as Jewish, that's a huge part of being Jewish for us, is expressing it through ourselves and our actions. And so that we model that for our children through the way we teach them, through the rituals, whether it be Shabbat or celebrating the holidays or just talking about Jewish issues. Which will become more and more complicated as the kids get older. But for me personally, I think the way that I accessed my Judaism the most strongly and still do today is just by being grateful. The Modeh Ani, when you wake up in the morning and think about the gratitude, because I wasn't spiritual for a long part of my life and came back to it later. And I just recognized for the first time at some point, I have a lot of privileges in my life. There's a lot of things that I was born into that I didn't have anything to do with. And who do I say thank you to? I needed to thank someone. And so then I realized, well, someone is looking out for me, and I'm grateful for that. And, you know, that continues today. For example, Baruch Hashem, no one in our family has come down with COVID in the 2 years of the pandemic. We're very lucky in that. And so I'm grateful for that. So the daily gratitude for me has been an extremely important part of my experiencing Judaism and living a Jewish life.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Rosanna?
And our last comment, it will be Janina.
Okay, yeah, so for me, I think everything that the other is said, I would subscribe to. Is very important. But for me, also in Judaism, it's very important for me is the trying to do good and heal the world, the tikkun olam. And for example, yes, switching off the computer on Shabbat and just reading and being with family is very important. But yesterday was Shabbat and I was online because I was trying to organize, you know, what can we actually really come to Ireland with us with just a passport, and basically posting the PDF and the minister's announcement for the members of the Ukrainian community and trying to help in any way I can. And I have had Saturdays because in Ireland these things tend to happen on Saturdays, where I was marching the streets of Dublin because there was an issue I deeply cared about. So then I do make exceptions because, you know, if it's about saving a life or saving many lives, and I don't take this just literally like someone is bleeding to death in front of me, but also like this law needs to change because if it doesn't change, people will die. Then yes, I will march on Shabbat. And then hopefully the next Saturday I will have a day off and I can have more spiritual Shabbat then. But like if the situation calls for it, I try to, you know, do good in the world where I can, in every little way I can.
Thank you, Yanina. And of course, our sages tell us, he who saves a life saves the world entire. And
may I say something which a nice quote?
Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
The Jewish is to wake up in the morning with one question and go to sleep at night with another.
Mm-hmm.
That sums it up.
That's Judaism. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We conclude our time together with the ancient words spoken by the first recorded convert to Judaism, who was Ruth. We find Ruth's experience recounted in detail in the Hebrew Bible and, of course, the book of Ruth. And here we find a young woman, not Jewish, but in an interfaith marriage, in that Ruth has married a Jewish man. And when he dies unexpectedly, Ruth's mother-in-law understands her loneliness and how she might want to go back to her own family, her own people, but Ruth declines. Instead, she says, "Don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay, and where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God." Back in biblical times, there were no conversion classes, no Beit Din examinations, no ritual immersion in a mikveh, and no one presented Ruth with a conversion certificate. It's only Ruth's words that represent her moment of conversion to the Jewish faith. And then throughout the passage, Ruth is referred to only as Ruth. She is never identified as Ruth the convert. And why would that be? The rabbis taught that when a person converts to Judaism, they are recognized as Jewish in the same way as someone who was born Jewish. According to our rabbinic sages, there is no difference at all. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, who was the chief rabbi of the UK and blessed memory, said it well when he wrote, "Judaism is the guardian of an ancient but still compelling dream, to heal where others harm, mend where others destroy, redeem evil by turning its negative energies to good. These are the mark of the ethics of responsibility, born in the radical faith that God calls on us to exercise our freedom by becoming God's partner in the work of creation." That seems to me a life-affirming vision, the courage to take the risk of responsibility, becoming co-authors with God of the world that ought to be. And if you have other questions or you want to share, Rosanna, if you would put my email in the chat, I'd be happy to respond to you. And if you would like to make a donation to the synagogue, we're always happy about that. And we are at neartomeditaly.org, and Rosanna will put that in the chat as well, if you would. We thank you for sharing in our efforts to extend the hand of Jewish welcome to everyone who joins us on their Jewish journey. Special thanks to all of our Jews by choice who joined us today. Judaism is enriched for having all of you with us. Thank you so much. Thank you. And ciao for now.